Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Amarachi Ubani here. The stories that we will be looking at within the hour. The spat between U.S. President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk deepens as Trump considers selling his Tesla car. Countries react to the U.S. government's travel ban and visa restriction, with the AU condemning the recent move. It's also alAdha across the world as the Muslims celebrate. Thanks for joining us on the program. We kick things off here in the United States, beg your pardon, where the spat between President Donald Trump and Tesla billionaire Elon Musk deepens. Both have been exchanging words on social media, showing relations between them has broken down. Now, the U.S. president is thinking about selling his Tesla car, which he bought 3 months ago when he and Musk turned the White House into a temporary Tesla showroom. There had been reports overnight that efforts were being made to effect some kind of reconciliation between the two men. But one reporter with local news ABC says that they were told by Trump that he's not particularly interested in speaking to Elon Musk. CNN even reports that Trump saying the poor guy's got a problem and he would not be speaking to him for some time. There have been signs that Musk was having second thoughts about his extended outburst when he responded to another billionaire who had called on them to make peace by saying, "You're not wrong." Last night at the White House, as he hosted the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Trump said he was very disappointed with Elon Musk for criticizing his one big, beautiful bill of tax cuts and reforms.
We've done a great job. Elon knew that. Elon endorsed me very strongly. He actually went up and campaigned for me. I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway, even if the governor ran, the real governor, not the governor from Minnesota, he's a sick puppy, that guy. That poor guy, I feel sorry for him. But they made a bad choice with him. But if you pick Shapiro or anybody else, I spoke to him recently about his house being set on fire, which was terrible. But if they picked him, I would have won Pennsylvania. I won it by a lot. But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden, he had a problem. And he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate, because that's billions and billions of dollars. And it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have we want to be able to sell everything. And when that was cut, and Congress wanted to cut it, it became a little bit different. And I can understand that. But he knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made about me, which I'm sure you can get very easily, it's very fresh on tape, he said the most beautiful things about me. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
U.S. President Donald Trump, the U.S. president earlier this week announced travel ban and restrictions for 12 countries. Executive orders signed this week blocks nearly travel to the U.S. from those 12 countries. Trump says a ban applies to countries that did not have things under control. One of those countries is Haiti. Businessman Wilkinson Séjour says the impact of the latest action by the Trump administration this week will be seen not only in Haiti, but also in the local Haitian communities that live in the United States. Séjour has no direct family in Haiti, but says most of his employees are originally immigrants from Haiti, as well as his clients.
The travel ban that Donald Trump is implementing, it's a chain reaction. It's going to affect everyone, even if you're a businessman and you're doing business, but you got to understand the people that are supporting your business, that are buying your product, they're going to be affected, so they're going to see sales are going to be compromised. Then you're going to look at the people that actually work for you. They're going to be affected. So then service is going to be compromised. So it's a domino effect. Most Haitians are what? Democrats. If most Haitians were Republicans, maybe that there might have been a different tone on this. But because they're Democrat, and they do have an impact in election cycles, because one thing that Haitians do, Haitians vote. Just like eating, just like going to the bathroom, it is synonymous. Now you're going to accelerate all of the chaos and violence that is in Haiti right now. The little bit of people that was able to go back and forth to America and help the country, now you've taken that arm away from Haiti. So it's almost to say you just want the country just to disintegrate. You want it, you don't want the country to be better.
African countries have begun reacting to that recent travel ban and visa restrictions announced by President Donald Trump. The African Union led criticism, describing the move as discriminatory, and called for the United States to adopt a more respectful and consultative approach. The executive order signed earlier this week by Trump blocks nearly all travel to U.S. countries, to the U.S. from 12 countries. Among them are 7 African countries: Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Libya, Sudan, and Somalia. Framed as part of a broader national security policy, the expanded restrictions have drawn global criticism for their perceived lack of fairness, transparency, and disproportionate impact on African and developing nations. Well, apart from the African Union, Somalis in Kenya have been expressing their disappointment with the announcement. Somalia is among 7 of those African countries we mentioned who have been prohibited from traveling to the United States. This takes effect from Monday, June 9. Somalia was quick to react to the travel ban, immediately pledging to work with the U.S. to address any security issues. Somalia's ambassador to the U.S., Dahir Hassan Abdi, said his country values its long-standing relationship with America. It's not the first time the U.S. has announced visa restrictions for Somalia. Last August, the U.S. announced visa restrictions against current and former Somali officials and others accused of undermining the democratic process in Somalia from traveling to the U.S. A statement from the U.S. Department says Somalia's national and federal member state leaders must follow through on their commitments to complete the parliamentary process in a credible and transparent manner by February 25. Well, this time, however, the Trump administration says the ban and restrictions are to protect U.S. citizens. One of the first African countries to react to President Trump's travel ban is Chad. President Mahamat Deby Itno responded by also imposing suspension on all visas to U.S. citizens. Responding on Facebook, he said Chad has neither plans to offer nor billions of dollars to give, but Chad has its dignity and pride. The country's Foreign Minister Abdoulaye Fadoul says his government was surprised by the announcement from the U.S. and even more by the terrorism-related reason, which completely disregards Chad's commitment and results in this area. I want to bring in now national security, law and foreign relations expert Joanna Leblanc. She joins me from Washington. Joanna, great to see you. It has been a while. And I must say that response to President Donald Trump's travel ban and visa restrictions are beginning to unravel. We're looking at the responses from African countries. Why would the U.S. president even consider these countries unsafe in the first place?
Good afternoon, Amarachi. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a while. Well, the administration's justification is national security, right? But we have to look at this from both legal as well as a political perspective. The reality is that Mr. Trump did run his political campaign on immigration. So these decisions are not surprising to anyone. Particularly his base. However, when you're talking about imposing these restrictions due to national security concerns, I think a sweeping and broad approach such as this truly undermine the process, because I do believe that yes, it is important to ensure security and that the homeland is safe and secure, and that folks who are entering the United States are properly vetted. But this is not what's happening here, right? We are restricting folks based on passports, not based on individual intelligence that has been gathered on specific persons who have applied for a visa looking to enter into the United States.
Right. And during his first term, we did see President Trump do something like this. He imposed a travel ban on Muslim-majority countries. We saw the backlash from that, and the ban eventually had to be lifted. Do you think the same could happen now?
Certainly. I think that in 2018, the Supreme Court case essentially set the foundation for what's happening currently. The Supreme Court essentially told the Trump administration, or any administration for that matter, that the executive branch has a broad authority over immigration-related matters. So by a stroke of a pen, the administration, any administration, can put in place certain restrictive immigration policies and so forth. But what's important is that I think that the United States Congress has to play a role here. And as someone who worked at the U.S. Congress as a senior staffer, I think that Congress needs to introduce legislation and pass legislation, because we know that there was a legislation that was introduced, the no ban legislation, but ultimately did not pass. But I think that there needs to be bipartisan effort to ensure that no administration can impose policies through executive actions or through proclamations that will have a direct impact on a particular region. And here, in this case, it's the Global South that is directly impacted by Mr. Trump's proclamation.
Now, Joanna, also one of the countries affected, of course, is Haiti. And earlier, we heard businessman Wilkinson Sejour talk about how the ripple effects this will have back home. He says it will escalate the already unsafe situation in Haiti. It will accelerate violence, he says, on Haiti as a result of this ban. Incidentally, you do have Haitian heritage. What do you think the impact of this could have on the country?
Well, in addition to the travel ban, there has been a number of measures put in place by this administration to restrict Haitians from coming into the United States. And also measures have been put in place to deport those who are currently in the United States under various statuses. Like, for example, you have individuals who have been living here since 2010 after the disastrous earthquake that killed more than 200,000 people. They have this status called the temporary protected status, which President Trump has essentially ended. So by August of this year, more than 400,000 Haitians will not have legal status that will be deported. You're talking about folks who have been living in this country since 2010, who have built homes, who have contributed to the American economy, who have worked hard, who have gone to school, who are really a part of the fabric of this economy. So that's one thing. Secondly, the restriction of folks entering into the country, as well as the deportation of folks who are already in this country, will certainly impact remittances going into the Republic of Haiti. As you know, Amarachi, back in 2023, more than $3.8 billion were sent to Haiti from the diaspora, and remittances to Haiti from the Haitian diaspora accounts for more than 20% of the country's GDP.
They do indeed. We also see the reactions from the African Union. It says that Trump's announcement is discriminatory. They want a more respectful and consultative approach. This doesn't seem hardline enough. What would you have expected from the AU?
Well, the African Union is a diplomatic mission, right? So they have to be very careful with their words. The words that could be discussed behind closed doors may not be able to be articulated in writing for public consumption. So from a diplomatic standpoint, I do understand why the letter was written the way it was written. However, I do agree with the African Union that better consultation should have taken place, and that this broad imposition of bans on majority African nations is just unacceptable. The data just does not support what the administration is claiming. I mean, you look at a country like Eritrea, the number of individuals who have been provided visas in comparison to the number who have overstayed. While the number may be high, but you have to look at the number of folks who have actually been issued visas. So some of the data that the administration provided to support its claim on its face does not make any sense. When you talk about a national security threat, it needs to be, there needs to be more data to support it, to make it stronger. So I do agree with the African Union in terms of how they responded, and there needs to be a great deal of coordination. But the ban was not unexpected, Amarachi, because several months ago, Mr. Trump did announce that there were certain countries that he was concerned about in terms of their processes in the issuance of passports, and also their processes in terms of sharing information with the United States, and given several countries a time frame to respond to the government, to provide information on how they will rectify their systems to make sure that it meets the scrutiny that the United States is looking for. So I'm not certain as to what measures were put in place by those countries and what the responses were, but this should not be a surprise to any one of us based on that letter that was sent several months ago, as well as based on Mr. Trump's campaign promises.
Yeah, let's speak a bit more about the U.S. president, and let's talk about the other issue that is unraveling before us, at least before the rest of the world, the relationship between President Trump and Elon Musk, the tit-for-tat we've been seeing on social media, and now we're watching a breakdown of their bromance. What do you make of what's happening here?
Well, the entire world has been watching this drama unfold on Twitter, which is now known as X. I think a lot of people were unfortunately expecting the breakup between Mr. Trump and Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not the first person to have been close to Mr. Trump and have a falling out. It was expected. In fact, folks thought they would have fallen out much sooner. But this brings about a much bigger issue, Amarachi. It is the role of billionaires in American politics. You see, there was a Supreme Court case called the Citizens United versus FEC, which essentially gave corporations and billionaires the ability to spend unlimited amount of dollars in political campaigns. So had that Supreme Court case had not been ruled on in the manner that it did, perhaps Elon Musk would have never been able to spend more than $300 million in the election, which is how he was able to gain favor from Mr. Trump. So I think the bigger question is the role of big money and corporations in American politics. And the fact of the matter is that United Citizens versus FEC must be overturned in order to preserve America's democracy.
And now the U.S. president is considering selling his red Tesla car, the one that he bought on the White House lawn about 3 months ago. And, you know, he's very upset with Elon Musk criticizing the big, beautiful bill because, of course, it does not cater to Elon Musk's Electronic Vehicles Act issue, I guess. And then, you know, the tit-for-tat between the two of them, Joanna, I think the U.S. president is very upset, and it's very hard to see Trump upset about anything. Most times his reaction is more like, you know, water off a dog's back. You know, he's unaffected by what is happening. But this really stung him, didn't it?
I think it did, and I think that Elon Musk must be very careful because if Mr. Trump wants to be vindictive, he can. He has a great deal of leverage. In fact, I think both of them needs to be careful with each other. While Elon Musk may no longer work for the administration, he does have some of his folks who are still working for Doge, who have access to some of America's greatest and most sensitive data, which he could easily download at any given moment and sell to whomever. right? And at the same token, Mr. Trump could essentially taint all of Elon Musk's companies and think about it. With Mr. Trump's immigration policies, Trump could eventually denaturalize Elon Musk and deport him back to South Africa. So both men have a great deal of leverage over each other. So I will caution wisely.
Indeed. I mean, we're all just holding our breath here, watching both of them just unravel before the rest of us. But what impression do you think that this is making on Americans and also on America's international partners?
Well, certainly this has created, again, additional strain on diplomatic relationships with countries around the world. And America is, again, becoming more and more unpredictable. I mean, at first you had the tariffs that were imposed, right? And you've had a number of cancellation of student visas. I mean, the U.S. Foreign policies have had a significant impact on nations all around the world. But what I will say is that by doing so, especially when you look at the global South, the United States is further alienating those countries to further strengthen their ties with alternative partners such as China and Russia. So if the United States wishes to maintain its global standing as the most powerful nation in the world, it needs to have influence, it needs to have leverage. And some of these policies perhaps are not being approached properly and should be revisited in order for the United States to maintain its posture in the world as a leader.
Joanna, thank you again for answering all of our questions and for your analysis. We appreciate it as much as ever. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the world today. Friedrich Merz has been Chancellor of Germany for just 1 month. High time for one of his most important state visits, a dreaded trip to Washington to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump. Lars Holter with the Deutsche Welle joins me from Berlin to discuss this. Lars, how did that visit go?
Yeah, that was a very interesting trade, of course. Was a major point on the agenda and a very timely one, because just when we look at what happened in those last couple of days, 2 days ago, actually, the U.S. under Trump just doubled tariffs on steel and aluminium imports. That does affect Europe, not necessarily as much as it maybe affects Canada and Mexico, but it does. Also, some German companies involved here, like steel giant ThyssenKrupp. And then, of course, we have all these tariffs on German cars and other products that have been now in place for a while. Now, maybe trade should have actually been the biggest topic in the discussions, but in fact the big surprise was that it was actually barely touched on. Trump said that he does want a trade deal with Germany, then later allowing for the fact that a trade deal would not be with Germany, as a matter of fact, but with the EU, because that's how trade works here. It doesn't happen with the individual members of the EU, but the bloc makes trade deals with its partners, in that case, of course, the United States. And it did become a pretty clear fast that we wouldn't get any details out of the president here when it comes to trade deals and what he would specifically like to see. Bottom line, I would say after this meeting, not much substance coming out of the talks between Trump and Merz, but at least they were conducted in a friendly manner.
Well, thankfully, they were able to distinguish from all the U.S. politics going on. But Lars, speaking of NATO and current global security matters, what did Trump and Merz really discuss?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Oh, where to start? I mean, first of all, from the German perspective, from Friedrich Merz's perspective, the meeting went very well. The two leaders seemed to be on friendly terms, with Trump complimenting Merz on his election win, his leadership, and even his English. Well, Merz, however, didn't get to use that English very much. He hardly spoke, whereas Trump went on forever on a few topics that were of interest to Merz as well and to Germans and Europeans. But Trump actually spent most of his time actually talking about domestic issues and bragging about himself. It was cringeworthy in so many ways, but again, for Merz at least, it was a very good meeting. He mostly listened and he escaped the Oval Office unscathed, which is not something you're taking for granted these days after what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, these Oval Office meetings as they went down for Volodymyr Zelensky of the Ukraine, of course, or just more recently with South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, this was all friendly, and Friedrich Merz actually invited Donald Trump to visit Germany, to pay a return visit, maybe even to that tiny little village of Kallstadt in the Palatinate region of southern Germany. That's where actually the Trump's family is already original from, where his grandparents emigrated from. So they're putting this on a very personal level. Maybe such a visit can actually happen relatively soon. However, the next visit that Trump will pay to Europe will be later this month for the NATO summit.
Well, hopefully he will be able to attend that. But the meeting between Merz and Trump does come in the middle of a trade war. How did that topic play out in Washington?
Well, obviously, Russia's war in Ukraine now in its fourth year was a very important, or maybe even the most important topic on the agenda. Much of what Trump said didn't really seem to get anyone closer to really solving this conflict. However, Chancellor Merz took one of the few chances he was given to talk, to make a very strong case for the U.S. to put pressure on Putin. One journalist asked about U.S. sanctions against Russia, but Trump unfortunately kind of evaded a clear answer. Anyway, at least Trump seemed to maybe inch closer to seeing Putin as the aggressor in the conflict and support Europe's view here. Merz, of course, had also come prepared. The German chancellor is one of the many European leaders who are supporting raising defense spending with the NATO to 5%. 3.5% go to the military, another 1.5% to military-related infrastructure. That's the latest here, of course, from discussions within NATO as well as the German government. Now, from a German perspective, that is all very smart because it allows to combine military spending here with general upkeep of roads and bridges, while it also gives Trump a big win. Trump has always said that NATO members have to spend more. Now they do, and it is, at least I would say, partially in an effort to placate the White House.
Lars, thanks again for speaking with us. Lars Halters with the Deutsche Welle. Staying in Europe, David Beckham is set to be awarded a knighthood in the King's birthday honours, but the ex-footballer has already become a very visible part of the royal circle. It can feel sometimes, in football terms, as if Beckham has been man-marking the royals, as he's become an ever-present at royal occasions. The Chelsea Flowers Show, a Buckingham Palace state banquet, an Italian dinner and Highgrove charity events have all seen the Beckhams and the lineup of guests to meet the royals. Last month, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, wore a dress designed by Victoria Beckham at a British Fashion Council event. It is an independent honours committee that considers who gets awards, such as knighthoods, rather than the royals. But if he does become Tsar David, the ceremony will not be the first time he'll have met the royals. There's already a close relationship established. Families traveling abroad this summer on holiday, that's if you're in Europe or to visit relatives, are being warned about the rise in measles cases in Europe and in other regions. Measles infections in Europe are at a 25-year high. Childhood vaccination rates in the UK that offer protection against measles, mumps and rubella are still a long way below the recommended 95% uptake, with the lowest region rates found in London at just over 73%. vaccinated. As some 109 cases were confirmed in April and 86 so far in May. These cases have mostly been in unvaccinated children aged 10 years and under. London has reported almost half of all cases in the past 4 weeks. Train services across the Netherlands were significantly disrupted as NS railway workers launched a widespread strike starting at 4 a.m. and set to continue until tomorrow morning. This caused the country's transportation system to come to a near total halt.
I study communication and multimedia design, and today coincidentally, we need to go to Antwerpen in Belgium. So it was really bad timing for the strike, stakingen from NS. So a lot of people can go because they need to have a train, of course, to Antwerp, but they also need to go maybe to another train station before they can catch a train international to Antwerp. So.
Well, I live in Eindhoven and work in Rotterdam, so the strikes have a big impact. Today I took the Flixbus to get here, so that added about 45 minutes to my commute. And yeah, that had a big impact. It was also only a few days warning, which normally there's a longer, they warn you more ahead of time. I think they're making their point. It's tough because it impacts the working people who need to get places, people that need to get to work, need to get to family. Maybe they're caring for a loved one. So it's too bad that it impacts so many of the residents, but that's the point, to make a big statement.
I think it's good that they have a strike today because they want to earn more money. And I think it's good to share the money to all the people. But for students and other workers, it's a little bit difficult today because they cannot go to their work. So that's a pity. But I understand why they are going to strike today.
Is Eid al-Adha today for Muslims across the world. Many celebrated with prayers and sharing of food to neighbors and friends. But as far as Gaza is concerned, there's nothing to celebrate. Muslim faithful all over the world celebrate Eid al-Adha, the holiday which commemorates Ibrahim's willingness to sacrifice his son to God before the intervention of Jibreel. This year, Eid al-Adha is celebrated from the evening of June 6 until the evening of June 10. In the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad, Mecca, pilgrims marked Eid al-Adha with head shaving and stoning rituals. The stoning ritual is a symbolic practice of stoning the devil and sins within faithful. It is in accordance with the Prophet Muhammad, who obeyed God by throwing 7 stones at the devil. On Thursday, thousands of pilgrims from across the globe gathered on Mount Arafat to observe another sacred rite of standing at Arafat. The mountain is considered the greatest pillar of Hajj, dedicating the day to prayer and supplication. Turkish President Recep Erdogan sent Eid al-Adha greetings to Muslim pilgrims performing Hajj in the holy city of Mecca. The president extended his best wishes to the pilgrims and expressed hope that the prayers and worship by all Muslims undertaking the Hajj would be accepted. Eid al-Adha is not only highly celebrated in the holiest city in Islam, but also in Indonesia, which has the largest population of Muslims across the world. Thousands of Muslims gathered at the world's 9th largest mosque, Jakarta's Istiqlal, to partake in the prayers, commonly referred to as the Feast of Sacrifice in Islam. After the prayers, the mosque will distribute sacrificial meats to deserving recipients, including active congregants, Islamic boarding schools, and orphanages. The celebrations extend to even countries at war, like Russia, where Muslims perform their prayers at the Cathedral Mosque. President Vladimir Putin extended his greetings to the Muslims, noting that Muslim organizations participate constructively in Russia, pay great attention to the upbringing of the younger generation, strengthen family values, and carry out large-scale initiatives in the fields of culture, education, enlightenment, and charity.
This holiday is great for me and for Muslims all over the world, because this is a special moment and a special time where pilgrims goes to Mecca and do their one of the most important things that Muslim does.
Unfortunately, Gazans cannot celebrate as the enclave is under siege and families are scattered. One displaced woman said there's no sign of celebration, nothing to remember, adding that people are confused, as if they've lost all consciousness. Another said all of Gaza is living through famine and Eid clothes are not even an option. However, there are other residents who have decided to ensure that they ease their pain a little by buying clothes or bread or praying on this special day. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Muslims, including Palestinians, performed Eid al-Adha prayers for the people in Gaza. One worshipper said his family will be happy when the war on Gaza ends and children are safe from fear, hunger, and the cold. Every year, tens of thousands of worshippers gather in the Al-Aqsa Mosque Square to hold Eid al-Adha prayers, despite tight security measures imposed by Israeli authorities at the entrances to the old city of Jerusalem. Our correspondent Halima Guillaume is in Mina, in Saudi Arabia, as thousands of Muslims from across the world are visiting the holy city of Mecca for the Hajj. She joins us from there. Halima, great to see you. How has today been?
Yeah, the day has been very filled with a lot of activities, rituals, pilgrims performing rituals, ourselves as well performing rituals, the stoning of the biggest pillar of Jamarat, and also trimming of the hair, and also the feast of sacrifice, marking the Eid al-Adha celebration.
Just explain to us, what that feast consists of. I mean, here in Nigeria, it's more like rice, jollof rice or white rice. And then there's, of course, a ram meat, which everyone looks forward to. Describe to us what the feast looks like in Saudi Arabia.
In Saudi Arabia, for the pilgrims, they engage in the spiritual rites, and that is the stoning of the devil, and also trimming of their hair, and then performing the feast of sacrifice, Qurbani. And then they also engage in exchange of pleasantries among one another. They also perform special Eid prayers and sermon, and also engage in some festivities, some feasting, which may not be as much as those that are not pilgrims. For non-pilgrims, they perform the special Eid prayers. For those who can afford, they sacrifice an animal, symbolizing the willingness of Prophet Ibrahim to sacrifice his son Ismail in obedience to the Almighty Allah. They exchange gifts. They take their children out for festivities. They also engage in family gatherings, right, where they feast on mostly traditional dishes. Those who have new clothes wear new clothes. It's a whole lot of activities to commemorate the day.
Yeah, and here in Nigeria, the prices of ram, which I understand is a very important aspect of the celebration, is really high. People are unable to celebrate with this aspect of the celebration. But in Saudi Arabia, is the ram as important to celebrations as it is here?
Yeah, it's very important for Hajj. In fact, your rituals are not complete if you do not feast, if you do not sacrifice an animal. So it's incorporated into the Hajj rituals. Like I said, after the stoning of the devil, pilgrims will now shave their hair and then perform the Qurbani, the sacrifice of an animal, to mark the beginning of Eid al-Adha, and then also an apex of the Hajj pilgrimage. And then for the next 3 days, they continue the Eid al-Adha celebration, going to Jamarat to continue with the stoning of the Jamarat, stoning of the devil.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the stoning of the devil, I believe. That's the literal understanding for us here. What is that like, for fellow Muslims who are performing this ritual? What does that signify, Halima?
It signifies the rejection of temptation by Prophet Ibrahim when Satan attempted to make him to disobey God by sacrificing his son. So that is what the stoning of the devil symbolizes. So for pilgrims, it symbolizes a rejection of any negative tendencies, an affirmation of faith, and a rejection of any temptation to do any act of evil.
Were you able to throw your own stones?
As exemplified by Prophet Ibrahim.
Right. And were you able to throw your own stones, Halima?
Yeah, we just came back from there. We're able to do our own stoning of the devil. I and my cameraman, Najini Salawuddin, we did that.
Right.
We've also trimmed our hair. We've done our animal sacrifice.
Well, unfortunately, we can't see the cameraman, but we do understand you both are not just performing the Hajj, you're also, well, this is incidental, isn't it? That the Hajj itself is happening at the same time that the Salah holidays do come up. Or is this intentional? That, the holidays or the Hajj will coincide with the holidays, or the holidays will coincide with the Hajj? Which one is it?
No, not necessarily that it's coinciding, because Hajj happens on specific days of Zulhijjah, so it's not a coincidence.
Right. And what is the message, from Mecca this time of the year, especially given the present economic, political realities on the ground for Muslims around the world?
Can you take that again? What is the message from whom?
What is the message from Mecca for Muslims around the world, given the present political and economic realities?
The message is to continue to devote, to continue to submit entirely to the will of Almighty God, to continue to seek for forgiveness, and to continue to reflect on their activities.
Right. Just before you go, Halima, I see lots of people walking behind you, walking past you. Where are they off to?
Oh, most of them are just returning from the stoning of the devil. Most of them are just returning from Rami al-Jamarat. You can see a lot of them.
Yeah,
the crowd was way more during the day, but it's reducing now. So all of them are coming back from Rami al-Jamarat, and they would continue with this ritual of stoning the devil for the next 3 days as they stay in the tent city of Mina.
Yeah, and one of the things you told us, Halima, just a couple of days ago is, the provision of, health and security at this time, for these rituals to be able to take place. How active have those services been in Saudi Arabia?
Very, very active, I would say, Amarachi. Crowd control, security, temperature, cooling system, all have been in place. There have been security everywhere. There have been a very, very robust management of the crowd. Else there would have been a stampede, and I can say there is no report of any stampede, because the crowd has been well managed this year, looking at the multi-layer approach that the Saudi government adopted this year.
Well, Halima, thank you for bringing us up to date. We'll expect you here as soon as, this Hajj is over. Thank you and your cameraman for allowing us to share in the experience.
Thank you very much. Eid Mubarak from I and my cameraman.
Eid Mubarak to you and your cameraman, Halima. To the world today, for many Lagosians, the presence of ram is symbolic to the celebration of Eid al-Adha. But for many, the cost this year has been too high compared to last year's. In the last few days, many have attempted getting their hands on the animal. The popular Kara market along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway was bustling with last-minute ram shopping on the morning of Eid al-Kabir's celebration, despite there having been traffic on this route all week caused by ram buyers. Officials of the Federal Road Safety Corps are present on the highway, ensuring free flow of traffic. They're also apprehending road defaulters as traffic builds up. The price for Salah ram has skyrocketed, and consumers are not happy about the situation.
The difference is very clear. It's very clear. It's like times 3 of the price that we bought last year. That is all this ram increase. The increment is like times 3. Because last year I was there this same day on the layer day. I bought one ram here, 180,000. Now I went to go and price that same ram. They did not collect 700. They did not collect 700,000. Everything is increased times 3.
The ram this year, the ram too much. You don't hide the price. The one right here, you buy 400,000 naira. Only one, 400. So that license, now we buy 250. You now only one 400,000.
Sellers attribute the increase to high inflation of feeds, saying the economic hardship in the country has dampened the demand for this year's Eid celebration.
You know, last year, by this time around, we have more than 50 trailers there on ground. They never sell. But Alhamdulillah, for this year, we sell. People come by plenty. But they don't do their best because the situation whereby we are in now in the country, no money for the country. And then people, they try. Every day, they will come by. Every day, since when start this business for layer time, 2 weeks back to this time around, all people, they are coming by.
So the price where you buy last year around the 300. This year, you can't get it with 300. That's why you go for the 600, double. Price of 300. This year, you're going to be the 600, double.
Why are they expensive this time?
Why they cost? Because we Nigerians, because our leaders cause that.
The Secretary of Ram Sellers Association at Kara Market says the border restriction on imports and exports from the Niger government has also affected the flow of ram stocks this year.
Because this year, Nigerians, they did not be able to come due to the president did not allow them to carry their rams come to this site. Only Nigerian rams, Chad, so that's the only rams that are here. Compared to last year, Niger, they are here, Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, understand? So that means the scarcity of rams try to happen.
Eid al-Adha, also known as the Festival of Sacrifice, is one of the 2 major holidays in the Islamic calendar. It celebrates the willingness of the Prophet Muhammad to offer his son as a sacrifice in obedience to God. But instead, God provides a ram for the sacrifice, a tradition that Muslims have now imbibed for the festive season. Well, these are stunts you should never try at home. Performers showcasing breathtaking, death-defying stunts in a spectacular aerial rope show above a sinkhole hundreds of meters deep in Haiti, northwest China. This footage captured on Wednesday shows professional stunt performers displaying their incredible skills, defying gravity with awe-inspiring flips and spins against the stunning backdrop of the sinkhole. The thrilling high-altitude rope moves involved leaping, spinning, drifting, and standing on hands while maneuvering a bicycle and executing various acrobatic feats on a wire. Well, one staff said as long as the weather conditions permit, the scenic area aims to show 5 high-altitude stunts performances every day. I have anxiety watching that. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani.